My girlfriend called me. I'm leaving you. Don't ask me why. I replied, okay. She expected begging. She expected the chase. She expected me to fall apart so she could put me back together in a shape that suited her better. But when she came home drunk later that night and found all her bags already packed, labeled and stacked by the door, she started crying. I am Alex, 31 years old. She is Brianna, 28. We had been together for 3.5 years, living together for 2 of them. To the outside world, and honestly, even to me for a long time, we looked solid. We were solid in that boring, comfortable, adult way. We shared groceries. We had those specific inside jokes that no one else would find funny. And we had arguments about laundry or dishes that never felt like the end of the world. It felt like building a life. But looking back, I realized that while I was building a foundation, she was building a stage. I'm leaving you. Don't ask me why. That is the exact text message I received. There was no emoji to soften the blow. No punctuation drama. Just a period at the end of the sentence like a door slamming shut. It was dropped into my day like a dirty plate tossed into a clean sink. When that message came through at 2:14 p.m. on a random Tuesday, I stared at my phone. The office hummed around me, phones ringing, keyboards clacking, people complaining about the coffee, but I was in a silent bubble. I sat there, phone in hand, waiting for the follow-up, the just kidding, the I'm having a bad day, the call me. There wasn't one. The screen went dark. Now, normally, this is the part of the story where the partner panics. This is where people beg. This is where you spiral into a panic attack, wondering what you did wrong. You call her, she sends you to voicemail. You text 10 times in a row, alternating between I love you and please talk to me. I felt that instinct kick in. It was a physical sensation, a tightening in my chest, a surge of adrenaline that said, fix this, chase her. It lasted for about half a second, and then something inside me just shut off. It wasn't anger. It wasn't numbness exactly. It was clarity. I typed back one word, okay. That was it. I didn't mean it sarcastically. I wasn't trying to be brave or play a game of chicken. It was just the only honest response I had left. If someone looks you in the eye, or in this case, sends you a digital notification, telling you they are leaving and explicitly commands you not to give them the basic respect of asking why, what exactly are you supposed to fight for? You cannot negotiate with a terrorist, and you cannot negotiate with someone who holds the relationship hostage. She read it immediately. I know because the little typing bubble popped up instantly. It danced there for a few seconds, 3 little dots pulsating like a heartbeat. Then it disappeared. Then it popped up again. Then nothing. Silence. I put the phone face down on my desk. I took a breath. And then I went back to work. I answered 2 emails. I sat in a meeting. I acted like my life hadn't just been casually detonated by a text message. But around 4:00 p.m. the facade cracked slightly. I checked Instagram. There it was, a story posted 20 minutes ago. Cocktails, a loud bar, her clinking glasses with a friend. The caption read, unbothered. That single photo told me everything I needed to know. She wasn't heartbroken. She wasn't in crisis. She was performing. She was creating a scene for an audience, and I was supposed to be the main character running onto the stage, weeping. So, instead of waiting around to be humiliated later, I decided to rewrite the ending. I left work early. I didn't speed on the way home. I drove the speed limit, listening to a podcast about history, keeping my mind completely detached from the reality waiting for me at the apartment. When I unlocked the front door, the apartment smelled like us. It smelled like coffee and her vanilla perfume. It felt cruel that the space hadn't changed when the people inside it had. I walked in. I took off my shoes. And then I got to work. I opened the hall closet first, then the bedroom, then the bathroom. I started packing. This wasn't the frantic packing of a man in a rage. I didn't throw her clothes. I didn't break things. I did it in silence, with the precision of a surgeon. I folded her clothes carefully. I wrapped her shoes in plastic bags so the soles wouldn't touch her sweaters. I placed her makeup in the padded pouches so nothing would shatter. As I packed, I started to realize something unsettling. I knew exactly where everything was. I knew which drawer held her favorite socks. I knew which moisturizer she used at night versus the morning. I knew her life so intimately that I could dismantle her presence in our home in under 3 hours. That realization hurt more than the text message. I was deleting a life I had memorized. I labeled each bag with a black permanent marker. Winter coats, shoes, bathroom fragile, jackets. It felt like I was doing inventory for a store closing down instead of dismantling a 3.5-year relationship. By the time the sun went down, casting those long, orange shadows across the living room floor, every single thing she owned was packed, sealed, and stacked neatly by the front door. It formed a wall, a physical barrier between the apartment and the exit. I didn't know it yet, but while I was doing this, she was getting drunk. Very drunk. She was likely checking her phone every 5 minutes, confused by my silence, drinking more to suppress the creeping anxiety that her plan wasn't working. She expected to come home to a man pacing the floor, eyes red, begging for an explanation. She had no idea what she was about to walk into. She came home at 11:47 p.m. I know the exact time because I was staring at the microwave clock when I heard the key scratch against the lock. She fumbled with it for a moment, a sign of the alcohol, before the door swung open and slammed hard enough to rattle the oven door. I was sitting on the couch. I had turned all the main lights off. The only illumination came from a single lamp by the window and the blue light of the TV, though the volume was muted. I was scrolling on my phone, scrolling mindlessly, pretending this was just another Tuesday night. She laughed when she stepped inside. It was loud, sloppy. The kind of laugh meant for an audience, even though it was just me. "Wow," she said, kicking off one heel. It hit the wall with a thud. "You're still up. I thought you'd be blowing up my phone by now." I didn't answer. I didn't look up from my phone immediately. I let the silence hang there, heavy and thick. She took 2 more steps forward, swaying slightly, and that's when she finally noticed them. The bags. 6 large suitcases. 3 trash bags tied neatly with double knots. 2 cardboard boxes labeled in bold black ink. Her favorite tote bag with the broken zipper was sitting right on top like punctuation at the end of a sentence. She blinked. Once, twice. Her brain was trying to process the visual information through a haze of vodka and arrogance. "What is this?" she asked, squinting. Her voice lost that performative edge. "What is all this?" "Your stuff," I said. My voice was calm, neutral. It sounded like I was discussing the weather. "Packed." She laughed again, but it came out wrong this time. Short, sharp, nervous. "Okay, very funny. You're being dramatic, Alex." I didn't move. I finally locked eyes with her. "You're the one who texted me." Her eyes dropped to the labels on the boxes. She recognized the handwriting. It was mine. Careful, deliberate caring. "Why are my bags by the door?" She snapped, anger flaring up to cover her confusion. "You said you were leaving," I replied, "so I didn't ask why. I just helped." That's when the color drained from her face. It was instantaneous. One second she was flushed with alcohol and indignation, the next she was pale, ghost white. "No," she said slowly, shaking her head. "That's not what I meant. Alex, I didn't mean right now. I meant I don't know." I was upset. "You texted me you were leaving," I repeated, keeping my rhythm steady. "And you told me not to ask why." She stared at me like I had broken some unspoken rule of the universe. "You were supposed to fight," she said, her voice rising in pitch. "You were supposed to call me. You were supposed to beg, ask what you did wrong. That's what you do when you love someone." I shrugged. A small, simple movement that seemed to infuriate her more than any scream could have. "You told me not to." Her mouth opened, closed. Then her eyes filled. Not with sadness, not yet. It was panic. She was realizing the script she wrote had been thrown in the trash. "This is insane," she said. "I was drunk when I sent that. And I was sober when I replied." Her voice cracked, then suddenly got loud again. "So that's it. 3.5 years and you just say okay?" I looked at her, really looked at her. Her makeup was smeared under one eye. Her phone was clenched in her hand so hard her knuckles were white. Her confidence, that unbothered energy from Instagram, was gone. "You already left, Brianna," I said. "You just didn't expect me to accept it." That's when she started crying. Not pretty crying. Not the single tear rolling down the cheek meant to elicit sympathy. This was ugly. Shoulders shaking, gasping for air, the kind of crying that happens when control finally slips through your fingers. She dropped down onto the floor right there in the entryway, her back sliding against the wall. She pulled her knees to her chest, curling into a ball, like the bags were going to jump her if she stopped watching them. "This isn't fair," she kept sobbing. "This is so unfair." I stayed on the couch. A year ago, I would have rushed to her. I would have held her, apologized for things I didn't do, promised to be better just to stop the tears. But tonight, I didn't move. I had done enough emotional labor in this relationship to recognize when silence was the only honest response left. After a minute, she looked up at me, mascara streaked, eyes red and unfocused. "Say something," she whispered. "Please." "You already asked me not to," I said. That made her cry harder. She tried anger next. That was always her default setting when sadness didn't get results. "You're doing this on purpose. You're trying to hurt me." "No," I replied. "I'm doing exactly what you told me to do." She pushed herself up unsteadily and grabbed one of the labels on a box. "Read it out loud," she demanded, though I didn't need to. "Winter coats." "You even folded them," she said, incredulous. "What kind of psychopath packs someone's things like this?" "The kind that listened when you said you were done." She swayed a little, then steadied herself on the wall. "I didn't mean it like that. I just needed space." "People say things. You asked for space," I said. "I gave you distance. Permanent distance. That's not the same thing. It is when you don't explain anything." She stared at me, searching my face for guilt, for regret, for something she could grab onto and pull back under her control. She didn't find it. All she found was exhaustion. "Where am I supposed to go?" she asked quietly. I shrugged again. "You seemed pretty confident when you left earlier today." That stung her. I saw it land physically, like a slap. She wiped her face with the back of her hand, then tried a softer voice. The manipulator's toolkit is vast, and she was cycling through every tool. "Alex, come on." I was emotional. "You know how I get." "I do," I said. "That's why I took you seriously." Her phone buzzed. A notification from one of her friends. Probably checking in after the dramatic exit she'd staged earlier. She looked at it, then back at the bags. Reality was finally catching up. She hadn't expected consequences. She had expected leverage. And for the first time since I'd known her, she didn't have any. She stood up too fast and nearly tripped over one of the bags. "Move these," she snapped. "I'm not leaving tonight." I didn't budge. "You already did." She scoffed, wiping her face aggressively. "Wow, you really practiced that line, didn't you?" "No," I said. "I just finally stopped improvising." That pissed her off. She started pacing barefoot, heels abandoned by the door like everything else she dropped without thinking. "You're acting like I cheated on you or something." "I went out. I had drinks." "God forbid." "You didn't break us by going out," I replied. "You broke us when you walked out and told me not to ask why. You tried to use a breakup as a weapon to get attention, and the gun went off." She laughed bitterly. "So now I'm the villain." Classic Alex. "I'm not casting roles anymore," I said. "I'm just ending the scene." She stopped pacing and stared at me hard, like she was memorizing my face for later, either to miss it or resent it. Probably both. "You know," she said slowly, venom dripping into her tone, "every guy before you begged. They all begged. They fought for me." "That sounds exhausting," I replied. Her eyes narrowed. "You think you're better than them?" "No," I said. "I just think I'm done auditioning." That's when she tried guilt, her specialty. "I gave you everything," she said, voice trembling just enough to sound sincere. "I moved in with you. I chose you. And this is how you repay me. By throwing me out like garbage." I almost laughed. "You didn't choose me tonight," I said quietly. "You chose to disappear and make me wait. You chose to make me feel small so you could feel big." She opened her mouth to argue, then closed it because she knew it was true. She slid down the wall again, slower this time, less dramatic, more real. "I didn't think you'd actually let me go," she whispered. I nodded. That was the mistake. She ended up sleeping on the couch. Not because I offered, but because she passed out there sometime around 2 o'clock a.m., phone still in her hand, one arm draped over a bag labeled jackets like it was a life raft. I went to the bedroom, closed the door, and slept better than I had in months. It was the sleep of a man who had put down a heavy weight he didn't realize he was carrying. In the morning, I woke up to the sound of drawers slamming. She was sober now, and somehow that made things worse. The hangover was clearly brutal, but her attitude was sharper. "You really packed everything," she said when I came out to the kitchen. She wasn't angry anymore, she was accusing. Like I had violated some unspoken agreement that breakups were supposed to be messy and drawn out over weeks. "You said you were leaving," I replied, pouring myself coffee. I didn't pour her a cup. "I assumed you meant it." She turned on me, eyes flashing. "You assumed wrong." "No," I said calmly. "I assumed you meant what you said. If you didn't mean it, then you were lying to hurt me. Either way, the result is the same." She folded her arms. I was upset. People say things when they're upset. And sometimes, I said, people get taken seriously. That set her off. She called me cold. She called me petty. She said I was enjoying this. She accused me of waiting for an excuse to get rid of her. She accused me of never loving her as much as she loved me. That one almost got me. Almost. "Loving someone doesn't mean chasing them when they threaten to leave," I said, leaning against the counter. "It means respecting yourself enough not to beg." She laughed bitterly. "So that's it? You just flipped a switch and stopped caring?" I shook my head. "No, I just stopped negotiating." She stared at me like I had spoken a foreign language. "What if I want to stay?" she asked. "You already chose not to," I replied. "Where am I supposed to take all this?" She gestured to the wall of bags. I grabbed my keys. "I ordered you a ride. It will be here in 10 minutes. That's when she realized this wasn't a standoff. It wasn't a debate. It was logistics. And she was officially on the outside of them. The ride showed up 10 minutes later. She watched through the window as the car pulled up, arms wrapped around herself like she was bracing against a cold that wasn't there. When her phone buzzed with the notification, she didn't move. "I'm not getting in that," she said. "That's fine," I replied. "The bags still are." She snapped her head toward me. "You can't just decide this is over like it's a canceled subscription." "I didn't," I said. "You did. I just accepted the cancellation." That sent her spiraling again. But I let her talk, because the truth was simple and she didn't want to hear it. I cared enough not to chase someone who used leaving as leverage. She finally grabbed her purse and yanked one of the suitcases toward the door, struggling with it like anger might make it lighter. At the door, she stopped, hand on the knob. "Waiting? Say something," she said quietly. "Please." I thought about all the times I'd swallowed my feelings so she wouldn't blow up. All the times I'd apologized just to keep the peace. All the times she'd threatened to walk when she wanted control back. "I hope you figure out why you said it," I said. "But I'm not staying while you do." Her face crumpled. She opened the door, dragged the suitcase out, and the driver helped her with the rest. She turned back once more. "You were supposed to fight for me," she whispered. I met her eyes. I was supposed to respect myself. She stepped out. The door closed. The car pulled away. And for the first time since that text message, the apartment was completely silent. I thought that would be the end of it. It wasn't. By noon the next day, my phone started buzzing like I had kicked a hornet's nest. Missed calls, texts from numbers I barely recognized. The flying monkeys had arrived. People who hadn't checked on us in months were suddenly very invested in my mental state and moral compass. "Hey man, Brianna is really upset. She said you threw her out while she was drunk. That's kind of messed up, dude. Are you okay? She says you snapped." I didn't respond to any of them. At 2 p.m. she texted me herself. "I can't believe you embarrassed me like this." Embarrassed. Not hurt. Not sad. Embarrassed. I stared at the message longer than I should have. The nerve of it almost impressed me. "You didn't have to make it so final," she followed up. "We could have talked." That one pissed me off. I replied once, just once. "You told me you were leaving and told me not to ask why." I respected that. 3 dots appeared instantly. "You were supposed to know I didn't mean it." There it was. The unspoken rule I'd finally broken. I was supposed to read between the lines, translate threats into requests, decode drama into reassurance. I didn't answer. An hour later, she sent a selfie, puffy eyes, tear tracks. Caption, "This is what you did." I blocked her. That evening, I found one of her earrings under the couch. Normally, I would have driven it over. I would have used it as an excuse to see her, to reopen the door. Instead, I put it in an envelope, wrote her name on it, and dropped it in the building mail slot. Clean, final, boring, and somehow that felt like the most powerful thing I'd done in years. 2 days later, she showed up again. I wasn't home, but the doorman texted me first. "Your ex is downstairs, says it's urgent." I sighed and told him I wasn't available. Apparently, that didn't stop her from trying, because when I got back that night, there was a note taped to my door. Crooked handwriting, lipstick smudge on the corner, "You don't get to erase me like this." That line stuck with me, not because it hurt, but because it summed her up perfectly. To her, love meant permanence on her terms. She could leave, threaten, disappear, but I wasn't allowed to accept it. She texted from a new number that night. "Blocking me doesn't make you right." I didn't reply. Then the messages got mean. She said I was emotionally abusive. She said I ambushed her. She said any decent guy would have waited until she was sober. She said she'd tell people I kicked her out with nowhere to go. That one almost made me respond. Almost. But here is the thing. I didn't kick her out. I believed her. She left first. I just refused to pretend she hadn't. The next morning, I got a call from her mom. We'd always been polite, never close. "I don't know what's going on," her mom said carefully. "But Brianna is a mess." "I'm sure she is," I replied. "She says you blindsided her." I took a breath. She told me she was leaving and told me not to ask why. I respected that. Silence. Then, oh. That one word felt heavier than all the texts combined. Even her mother knew. Deep down, they all knew. That afternoon, I finally felt it. Not guilt. Not anger, but clarity. The kind that doesn't buzz or spike, it just settles. She didn't want a breakup. She wanted a reaction. And when all she got was acceptance, the power dynamic collapsed. I wasn't cruel. I wasn't dramatic. I just didn't chase. And for her, that was unforgivable. The story she told everyone kept evolving. At first, I was emotionally distant. Then I was cold and manipulative. By the end of the week, apparently, I'd been planning to dump her for months and used her drunk text as an excuse. Funny how I was blindsided right up until I wasn't. What finally broke the silence wasn't her. It was me realizing how peaceful my days had become. No eggshell conversations. No emotional roulette. No threat of abandonment hanging over my head like leverage. I came home from work one night and noticed something small but telling. I hadn't checked my phone once on the walk back. No anxiety. No bracing myself. That's when she called from yet another number. I answered this time. "Why are you doing this?" she asked immediately, voice wet. "No, hello, I'm not doing anything," I said. "I stopped doing things." She scoffed weakly. "You know what I mean. You're acting like I never mattered." "That's not true," I said. "You mattered enough that I believed you." She went quiet. "Then you're really not coming back, are you?" I leaned against the counter, looked around the apartment, my apartment now, and felt something settle. "No," I said, "I'm not." Her voice cracked. I didn't think one text would end everything. "It didn't," I replied, "it just revealed it." She didn't yell this time, didn't accuse, just breathed unevenly into the phone. "I thought you'd fight harder," she whispered. "I did," I said gently, "just not this time." We hung up without saying goodbye. And for the first time, I knew she finally understood. Not that she'd lost me, but that she'd lost control. It's been 6 weeks. That's how long it took for the dust to actually settle. Not publicly, but inside me. The messages stopped after that last call. So did the flying monkeys. People got bored once there was no new drama to feed on. Turns out, a breakup where one person doesn't explode, cheat, or beg isn't very entertaining for the spectators. I ran into her once, completely by accident. Grocery store, frozen foods aisle. It's always the frozen foods aisle, isn't it? She looked smaller. Not physically, just less certain. like someone who'd finally realized they weren't the main character in every room they entered. She didn't say hi. She just stared at me for a second, wide-eyed, then looked away toward the frozen pizzas. That was enough. I walked past her. I bought my groceries. I went home. And when I got home, I noticed something strange. There was no urge to text anyone about it. No need to process, explain, or justify. The moment passed and stayed past. That's when I understood the real ending. She didn't break me by leaving. She exposed how often she threatened leaving to stay in control. And when I didn't chase, when I simply accepted it, the whole illusion collapsed. She expected begging. She expected chaos. She expected me to convince her she was irreplaceable. What she got instead was calm boxes and a closed door. And yeah, maybe packing her bags that night seemed cold to some people. Maybe some of you listening think I was too harsh, that I should have known she was drunk, that I should have waited. But here is the truth that people love to ignore. Sometimes the healthiest response to disrespect isn't confrontation. It is acceptance. She said she was leaving. I believed her. And that belief changed everything. If you are still listening, here is the takeaway. You teach people how to treat you. If you reward threats with attention, you will get more threats. If you reward distance with chasing, you will always be running. But if you meet disrespect with silence, you get your life back. I am Alex. I am single. My apartment is quiet. And honestly, I have never felt better. If this story resonated with you, or if you have ever had to walk away to find yourself, hit that subscribe button for Story Sparks. We share the stories that matter. See you in the next one.